And welcome back here on the channel. I'm back because, as always, I try to do at least 3 vids a day. And what I'm really trying to do is kind of get my page together now that people are actually starting to watch and care about what I say. So, I'm kind of trying a new layout. If you like certain videos, I have now gone through tediously and monotonously and kind of put them into subclasses so that way people who want to see my movie reviews, they can go under the subtitles and see all of my movie reviews. People who want to see my rants can see my rants, news, and anime. And I'm trying to think of the other one I did. I did and my me one, which will be personal little tidbits about myself. And I might even shoot some more videos like that. And I can track each of the individual groups and how well received they are. So, let me start off by saying, if you like the format, leave comments and let me know what you're thinking about it. I do eventually want to make intros for these videos and things like that, but I just find my best work shooting off the hip. So I just like that kind of just doing my thing vibe. So now here is the news that I wanted to bring to you guys today. Once again, our favorite person, and I'm a little nervous to say it because last time my feed was interrupted when I was going into a certain spoiler review. So this time, I'm going to try code words. But let's just say the plank, board, wooden face, you get that code, wood face. I'll call them wood face. So let's just say wood face had premiered on a show. And this particular wooden person was talking about their film, and they were talking about an upcoming film. And I felt like you guys needed to know this news because it's quite interesting. There's been a lot of things surrounding the new Endgame. And one of those such things that were placed out there was that maybe the cast was not really happy with a certain person and the things that they were bringing to the film. So, long story short, in the most cringiest interview, and you can watch it on the web, it's one of the first things that pull up because apparently the algorithm is trying to bring these stories before all of us creators, that it would appear that the person who was conducting this interview asked some questions, and in a very wordy sort of way, they alluded to other movies that they had done and how they deal with not getting along with certain co-stars. And now the blatant way that this is said can't really be misinterpreted. Interpreted. No matter how much you want to misinterpret the statement or try to spin it, how it said was that this person in a new film, which this person can only be tied to one new film, was not happy with their co-stars. This amazes me. I have never single-handedly seen someone upset a fan base and upset co-stars this quickly. Truly, this has got to be a very talented person. Not necessarily talented in the industry, but talented at making people upset. Because this statement has just infuriated the directors, and it's infuriated the cast members. And I find this intriguing that you want to isolate yourself from these people. And the interesting part about this whole thing is that acting with a group of people requires you to build trust, no matter what your differences are. And each of these people have a certain amount of trust around the things that they do. So this person blatantly insults them and then expects that they're going to be thrilled with having to share scenes with this individual. I find that funny. I find that hilarious. I just want to say this. People need to realize that you cannot do everything on your own. They need to realize that acting and film is a team sport when you're in a team cast. And we've seen many films go awry due to one particular person feeling like they're going to be a standout. And now with this person's film apparently set to do really well, that is going to inflate the ego. So it will be interesting to see how these things unfold. In other unrelated news, we have some box office projections. So far, Captain Marvel is seen to be on its way to do 400 mil in just the weekend alone. So I applaud mediocrity. No one, including myself, ever said that this was not going to do well. I think it's funny that it's portrayed by a lot of insiders as if people are trying to self-sabotage this film. Me personally, I have no stakes one way or the other. I'm just a regular guy like you guys doing, small vids. It is, however, astonishingly interesting to see exactly how all of this is coming about. And I'm really curious as how this is going to affect things long term. See, this is the interesting thing about short-term projections that a lot of critics don't follow unless you're like me and I follow all the numbers. I go to Odin's movie blog and I listen to him and his breakdown because numbers isn't my particular strong suit. But I am good enough with numbers to know statistically and comparatively how something's going to do. Now, fun and interesting fact about all of these things that I have mentioned. Box office numbers and projections are just that. They are numbers and projections of the box office that don't necessarily make that the final defining thing of how well a film does. Yes, you want a good pull towards that beginning, but there is such a thing as a drop-off. The drop-off overall determines how well this movie's going to do. Bread and butter of a company is how many times you see it and how many times people tell people to see it, and then they take their people, thus getting more money. It's really simple. It's an easy concept to follow. Now, whether or not this was going to do good is not the question. The real question from everyone is not the first week or even the first weekend, but the sustainability of the film. Okay? You can have a film that does 500 mil and then drops off by like 70%, and that's pretty much the number it's going to stay at. And, if it's made for like 3 mil or whatever, that's pretty decent. But if it's made for higher and the drop-off tanks, then they struggle to even break even or reach the goal. So, it's really interesting to see exactly what the repeat audience is. I predict that this film is going to break even and make a profit, but I don't believe it's going to have sustainability when you get to the next weeks that have other major releases. I think other major releases are set up to kill this thing's momentum. So it's going to maybe hold on to number one for this week and possibly the next week. But when movies like Shazam and Pet Sematary and Us come out, I think they're going to be battling for this spot. Now, my prediction is that if Shazam has good word of mouth, if it has good buzz, if it does decent in the box office, I think it'll overtake the spot. My overall prediction is that Captain Marvel is going to be sitting at about a 3 or a 4 in overall top 5 movies for that next week. I think it'll hold the number one for a while, and then when other films come out, I think it's going to kick it down. Now, the bigger question is going to be how long it's going to stay past its length, and that'll determine whether this thing is a grand success or if it's just a flash in the pan, so to speak. So I myself and various other people are super curious about how this thing's going to do. Getting away from Captain Marvel because I get honestly exhausted talking about this film. Um, I think that other films are going to do good, and I think they're going to do really good at the fact that this film has been negative since day one. So after the initial hype and it dies down, I think it's going to give these other movies a chance to really vie for the box office. So I personally would like to see Pet Sematary at number 2, but I haven't seen the movie, so I got to see how it is to make an accurate comparison. It's one of my favorite horror films. I'm very curious about. I think that'll do well, especially with people, fans of Jordan Peele and the horror genre. I think it's a great time this upcoming week for horror. The movie Shazam, I'm hoping does really well. I'm hoping actually it surpasses Captain Marvel, because if you have a male lead who outpaces a female lead, that will be hilarious to cover. I really want Shazam to really knock it out of the park. As we get closer to it, I'm gonna put out some vids in support of this, and I'm really hoping that people are gonna rally behind this film. I think that over the upcoming weeks, I think you're really gonna see other things knock this thing off, and it's gonna be interesting then to see what movies are gonna take what spot. So I'll keep you guys all apprised, but that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you very much. If you like this, hit subscribe, hit the like button, and as always, me and Goose